Miami is a 3.5 point underdog to Texas A&M. They shouldn't be because of Carson Beck.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 network for podcasts in the country. Today's show, we're going to be talking about the Canes and the Aggies. As we get closer to the end of the show, we'll talk about Miami's program as a whole, how it's completely changed under Mario Cristobal. They have done a great job. What are Miami's transfer portal needs? They're going to lose some key players. Carson Beck, Big Maui at right tackle. They're going to lose Rueben Bain to the draft. A lot to talk about there. But the opening of this show, and if you take nothing else from it, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks, Marcel Reed versus Carson Beck. And I think Carson Beck is the reason the Canes should win. To help me break all of this down from Rivals, South Florida recruiting reporter Marcus Benjamin. Marcus, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Brian. How about you?
Yeah, doing good. Look, you're a lifelong Miami guy. You're a guy that's lived in South Florida. You cover that area recruiting. We talk all the time about stuff. We see each other at events.
Sure.
I just want your gut feeling here. We'll get into stats. I'll throw up the stats in a second on Carson Beck, why I'm so confident, even though, again, FanDuel has A&M 3.5 point favorite. And they're at home, all that. I get it. But Beck played at Georgia, et cetera. I feel really good about Beck. What is your take on how he will play against the Aggies in this game?
I think you should expect an efficient game from Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck knows that when he doesn't play well, he throws interceptions. So I think the game really kind of hinges on how well Beck plays. I think he knows that. I think this is a prove-it game for him, not only to the naysayers, but for the NFL as well. I mean, this is a guy who can potentially still be a maybe a first round pick because, just quarterbacks are just very hard to come by. Good ones are in the for the NFL. So I think he wants to prove to everyone nationwide that he can play well in a hostile environment and lead the Hurricanes to a victory in College Station. So, yeah, I think he will be efficient. The one thing that I will say about him is that he kind of locks in on his first read, and his first read is usually Malachi Tony. He's usually looking for that guy, but I would like for him to kind of spread the ball around in order for him to, be efficient and play well. I think if he does that, I think he can lead the Hurricanes to a victory over the Aggies.
Yeah, I think Keelan Marion, CJ Daniels are the keys as far as what you're talking about. You got to be able to hit your number 2, number 3 options. 2nd down and 6 doesn't go out of style. It's okay to hit the check down. All the boring stuff is what wins football games when you play a quality opponent.
Yeah, he needs to be checked down back. He needs to check it down to the back or check it down to the tight end. This is supposed to be tight end but the usage of the tight ends hasn't been as prevalent this season. We've seen some flashes of Elijah Lofton, and I would suspect that he would see some more targets than he usually has in a game this season against Texas A&M. So yeah, he needs to be checked down back and play conservatively and not be a gunslinger in that Louisville game. We was kind of throwing it for up for grabs. That is something you cannot afford to do in that hostile environment.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. I think Lofton, talking about tight ends, they didn't use him quite as much this year as I thought they would. That could be another guy. I'm curious to see because Malachi lines up in the slot. A&M's got some really big, rangy corners. But will either one of them play inside, follow? Like, they play a lot of man. Like, I'm curious about that. And to your point about the interceptions against Louisville, I don't know exactly who, what, when, where, and why it happened. But if you look at the last 4 games here, I'm using CFB stats, by the way, great site. Okay. 4 games at the end, 1 pick, and that was against Pittsburgh. And they actually have some pretty good DBs. He just kind of turned it around at the back half of the season. You think it's comfort for Beck? Like, what do you think the reason is? Because They're after the game against Louisville, everybody was a little nervous. SMU, they've got some decent players and, had some bad luck with it. But like after that, it's just been totally different. Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is really just the scheduling. As those opponents, I don't think as a strong opponents as some of the opponents in the middle and towards the beginning of the schedule. I think he realizes that he had to take care of the football a little bit better, and realizes that the two losses you could basically account to him turning the ball over, because if he doesn't turn the ball over in those games, Miami's very likely an undefeated team going into the playoff. Probably very likely has a first round bye. So I think he is well aware of that, and I think in this game he's going to prove that that he can take care of the football and he can be trusted with the football. As far as third down is going to be an issue, or it's going to be a concern, because Texas A&M, from what I understand, has the best third down defense in the country. So that's where this game, I think, is going to be won or lost. Obviously, is third down. Can Carson Beck really get it to the other receivers on third down? Can he use his legs to run for third downs? I think that is going to be in the key in this game. And I think that was the key for those wins in the latter part of the season, his ability to convert third downs and not turn the football over.
Yeah, I agree. For the record, here are a couple interesting stats. Again, A&M's third down defense is number one in the nation. This is crazy, like so good. Third downs, they're giving up 22.7%. They've only given up 35 third downs all year on it. That's incredible, especially playing in the Southeastern Conference. They're number one in sacks. They're 41 in the nation. 41 guys went down to them. So that was number one. Miami was pretty good there too. They were 34 and they were 19th. Interceptions, though, this is the bizarre thing, and this is why I favor Miami. For the record, I'm not trying to say this. I'm picking the Canes 31-27. Okay. Interceptions for A&M, only 3 on the season. With all that pressure and that ability to play third down, I was shocked by that. They play man, which makes it a little harder, but still, they've got some good pass rushers. They got 41 sacks. That's a lot. It is what it is. Miami has 12, and that's the other side of this. Marcel Reed, I'm just going to be blunt. I don't trust him against Heatherman. They play a lot of zone. They're going to try to confuse him. Look, I'm not trying to pick on South Carolina, but they're not as good defensively as Miami. They don't have Rueben Bain for sure. I don't think he's going to be comfortable for the entirety of the game. He'll have some moments because Marcel Reed's a very talented player. I think that's the difference. I think Miami will turn it over less and win a kind of a back and forth game because of that. Are you thinking that Miami's going to throw out anything different defensively against Marcel, or are they just going to play their over-the-top defense? They want to keep everything in front of them. They haven't been shy about that from game one all the way through the regular season. You think they'll throw anything different at him or just go with what they do?
Yeah, I do think that they will pretty much stay status quo with their defense. They haven't blitzed a ton this season. They like to rush with 4, and you can when you got Akeem Mesidor and Rueben Bain rushing on the outside. Both of them could be first-round picks. We'll see how that plays out later on this spring. But yeah, I think that they'll have a spy on Marcel Reed, because Reed can be dangerous with his legs, and I think they're going to play it similarly to how they played USF with Byron Brown. Byron Brown is an excellent running quarterback over there for USF, and they were pretty much able to kind of shut him down, spying him, and like I said, rushing the 4 pass rushers. I think it's a combination of zone and man that Miami runs at times, but I think they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna really try to confuse Marcel Reed too much. I think if you put pressure on him, you force him to make decisions, and sometimes he makes bad ones. Let's just say so. I think if they just kind of stay status quo here, I feel like they will force Reed into some kind of turnover, bad decision, incompletions, where Miami can kind of get off the field.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even if it's just one or two key plays where let's just use Ruben. That's an easy answer. If he applies pressure and gets him away from taking half the field because he flushes into the right or the left, that's when the guys that tend to throw interceptions make the colossal mistake that carries on forever.
Yeah.
Do I think that's going to happen? Yes. Yes, I do. It's just straightforward. I know that's a very boring answer, but prove me wrong. Pass rushers go high in the draft for a reason. You know what I mean? Like Ruben's got a chance to be a top 20 pick somewhere in there. I don't know exactly where he's projected because he's such a good and versatile pass rusher. College guys generally don't do well. The one thing I will say, this is fun and why the playoffs should be good. A&M's offensive line is tremendous.
Yeah.
It is really, really good. It's probably as good a matchup O-line versus O-line. I know they don't play directly, but Miami's O-line and A&M's O-line in one game, that's as good as we're going to get in this college football season. So you'll see some pretty good alignment in this game.
Yeah.
When we come back, I want to talk a little more about Miami's defense, but then because guys like Rueben Bain are going to be going, was with the Saint, etc., I'm going to ask Marcus about the transfer portal for the Hurricanes. That is next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The holidays always show up faster than we expect. And if you're still putting together gifts, last minute decor, or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy for you to get whatever you need and fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, decor, furniture, kitchen, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. So if you just need some pillows, if you need some coasters, if you need pictures, if you need cushions, or even if you need a couch, Wayfair has you covered. Get last minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now and shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style and every home. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe. Marcus Bingen hanging out with me. Hosting this show is a lot more fun when you got somebody to talk to that's actually knowledgeable about the teams. Some of the guys that I get sometimes aren't as good. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Ruben, I mean, it's a lock that he's going to leave, and nobody's going to sit here and say, "Oh, they're going to replace Rueben Bain." That's idiotic.
Yeah.
What is your take? Because they've recruited it well. This is the one I don't have an answer for. Defense is one with talent because you're chasing the ball. You can scheme offense, but defense is about recruiting and transfer portal. And I'm not taking anything for Heatherman or anybody else. You still got to scheme it to a certain degree, but it's more about talent than offense is. Ruben, I expect to have a really good game against A&M, but whenever his career comes to an end, you're not replacing that guy. Are they going to go portal at all, or are they recruited well enough at defensive end? They just say, you know what? Next man up, we're going to roll with it. What do you think they're going to do at that spot?
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to the last couple of years. I think they may get one or two guys as far as interior linemen is concerned. But as far as who they've recruited on the outside, I think they're good with where they are as far as recruiting wise. I think Mario Cristobal and his staff, they love to recruit the trenches. I think that is kind of their strong suit. Recruiting the offensive line and the defensive line. But sometimes, they don't have the interior defensive linemen that they need to be a successful program in a Power 4 conference. Last year, they got David Blay, which, I think is a good addition. He was hurt earlier this season. I do believe he's going to be healthy for this one. And I suspect that they will add another defensive tackle or two. They've recruited well, I think, on the defensive line for the 2025 class. Ashari Charles is going to be, I think, an outstanding talent. I do think Jordan Campbell is going to be a player that's going to see the field a lot. But a player from last year who got hurt, Hayden Lowe from the West Coast, I think is going to be an outstanding player. In spring of last year, he was making a lot of noise. A lot of people were expecting him to play until, he obviously got hurt. So they've got some guys. Armando Blunt is a budding star. I think that will be in the rotation consistently next season. Justin Scott continues to develop, the 5-star from Chicago. I think he is going to be a staple for that defensive line for years to come. So yeah, I do think they add a defensive tackle or two, but I think on the edge, I think they got enough guys that they believe that will be disruptors for the 2026 season. I think they have the greater needs at, maybe linebacker, and wide receiver. I think you want to kind of add an experienced guy because you're likely going to lose a CJ Daniels. You've already lost a couple of guys to the portal with Nikar and Ray Joseph. Jojo Trader, I'm not. We'll see if he jumps in the portal or not. I've heard rumors that that could be the case, but you never know. With these, athletes and kind of what they decide to do. So I do think wide receiver will be a need. Of course, quarterback is going to be a need. That seems like that is where where Miami is trending every year. They're getting a big name portal quarterback. I heard Miami in the mix for Sam Levitt and DJ Lagway. So there's definitely a possibility there because I expect Emory Williams to jump in the portal. And of course, Carson Beck's going to move on to the NFL. And then you've got Luke Nickel, an unproven guy who doesn't really have a ton of experience. And then you're bringing in Darion Coleman. You got to have another guy. You can't go into a college football season with just two quarterbacks, two young, inexperienced ones at that. So you definitely would need one at quarterback. They'd like to add a running back as well. I would think. Yeah, I would think they would want to add a running back because Jordan Lyle hasn't seen the field much. I heard that maybe that could be a possibility for him to jump in the portal as well. And then you got Chris Wheatley Humphrey, Gerard Pringle, and we'll see what Mark Fletcher does. I've heard that Mark Fletcher may try his hand at the NFL, and if that happens, you still have Shamar Brown, the transfer from North Dakota State, who would be in the mix, and then you've got the one recruit in Javion Mallory. But it seems like Miami likes to add at least one running back as well. We've seen that in the past couple of years with Shamar Brown and the year before with Damian Martinez. So, yeah, I think Miami has greater needs at other positions than the edge positions.
Yeah, I'm curious about it because, like, everybody knows how good Rueben is, and it's just hard to lose a player like that and replace him. But Miami's recruited the spot very, very well. D-tackle, every team needs a defensive tackle. Like, they're just there isn't 1/3 as many of them that there needs to be for teams to run the defenses they want. There just aren't that many guys that can move like that. But it is what it is.
Sure.
The one guy that I wanted to ask you about, Keionte Scott, like, he was okay at Auburn, but he's been really good for Miami. Like, he's a clutch player, for lack of a better term.
For sure.
Are they going to be able to replace him with the roster players, or do you think they go portal there? Because, like, veterans in the secondary, I get it if you do that route. I don't have an opinion. I just wanted your take on it.
Yeah, I think they're going to try their hand at the portal there. Defensive back, they've hit this season.
Yeah, they did.
with Keionte Scott, even Xavier Lucas, and
Jacoby Thomas too.
Jacoby Thomas, yeah, thank you, man. That's where they definitely hit there, and they've also hit on defensive backs as well. Well, I wasn't expecting Bryce Fitzgerald to have a breakout.
I was surprised he played as well already.
Yeah. That he's had. So that's a guy that I think is definitely going to, obviously stay with the program and continue to develop. I see him, developing into maybe an All-American at some point because he's just a freshman. He's just a baby out there. So I do think Miami does go into the portal for at least one, maybe even two defensive backs because, I could see Keionte Scott obviously moving on. And I think Damari Brown likely will stay with the program. And then OJ Frederick. He could. I don't see it though. I feel like he hasn't built up enough tape to really kind of show the NFL scouts that he can be a fourth, fifth rounder. And then OJ Frederick is still relatively young himself. I mean, last year he had a breakout season. This year, injured for most of the year. Should be back for this game. That, from what I heard as well, which would be a big lift for the team. So Miami surprisingly has depth at defensive back, which is not something that we've said a lot in previous years, and it's because of the transfer portal. So why not keep going to the well, of the transfer portal to add guys? Because you've got two defensive backs, coach. Not every program really has two legitimate defensive backs coached like Miami does. So I think Miami does go in the portal for the defensive backs, but they do have depth at DB to sustain not getting a splash name. And I will also say that this 2026 class, whoa, Brian, it's amazing. Like, as far as the guys that they are bringing in, Jalen Waters, I think, is a guy that could possibly start day one. Long, lengthy corner, very strong, can play safety or corner. Jontavius Wyman out of Georgia, I think, is a really solid defensive back as well. And then they brought in J.J. Dunnigan late, really talented corner, also could play safety as well. So I think they're pretty deep at defensive back, and I think they still, though, would like to add more depth because, obviously, based on this year, you've seen attrition. You've seen OJ Frederick go down, and you had to, have different guys kind of jump in and replace him. So I think it's going to be a combination of both.
Well, with that, I think it leads to the final topic I want to discuss, and that's Miami's program as a whole. I want to discuss where it was when Cristobal and crew got there, where they're at now, and what is next for the Miami Hurricanes. That's next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. Whatever it may be, FanDuel lets you jump in on the action at any given moment. Live spreads and money lines will adjust as a quarterback makes a big play or a running back gets hot, and player props update as the guys heat up as well. And of course, you could always go with the quarter scores or anything like that in terms of team stuff. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long with FanDuel, you can do that and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, Marcus. Overall, what grade would you give Cristobal and his staff from the time they were hired to now in terms of changing the culture and the roster?
Wow, that's a good question. Wow. I mean, this program really has progressed every year. I mean, they went from 5-7, Brian, like, to not making a bowl at all, to I think 7-5 the next season, to I want to say 8 wins and then 10 wins last year, and then making the playoff this year. I mean, this team has grown exponentially at all different positions as far as quality is concerned. Even the staff, the recruiting staff, guys that Mario Cristobal has added to this program, I think were excellent hires. So, you put me on the spot there, man. I'm not going to say. It depends if they win a championship, though. If they win a national championship this year, you got to say A, right?
Yeah. If they do that, that's clear. But
yeah,
going into it, B plus, A minus, like, where are you right now with it?
Yeah, it's like their project. I think at this point, a lot of people are picking them to upset Texas A&M, and if they do that, this is a successful season, And I think if you go back few years ago and you told me, like, hey, in 2025 the Hurricanes will be going to the playoff and making it out of the first round, I would say, wow, that's B plus, because Miami hasn't been relatively relevant in previous to Cristobal. I mean, yeah, they had a couple of good seasons under Manny Diaz. They had one solid season under Mark Richt where they finally won a bowl game. But for the most part, this team has been a middle of the pack type of team. You can't say that now. Miami is one of those elite programs right now that gravitate towards that is gravitating towards the top of college football, and recruits are watching that, and portal guys are looking at Miami as a possible destination every time the portal opens. And not only because the program is historically has been great, but the culture is something that has been fully established. This is definitely a team that has established itself as a trench team.
Yes.
It establishes its identity as a team that is solid on the offensive line. They're going to develop guys and put them in the NFL, and they're also developing a reputation of developing edge guys that are developing and going to the NFL. And now it seems like it's, hey, if I'm a pretty decent quarterback that wants to take my talents to the next level, Miami, it seems like it's a possibility, because you saw that with Cam Ward, and now you're seeing it with Carson Beck. So Miami is now, I would say, a top 10 program in the nation. So I think Miami Hurricanes fans should be very happy with that. Although they're probably not, because they still haven't won a championship since 2001. I haven't really been in a championship game since 2002, but I think you got to be happy if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan just to be in this position, because I think they're one of those programs where they're kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, like where every year fans were saying, okay, this is the year we're back. And then you get to this part of the season and they're not back. Right now, at this point, you could legitimately say that Miami is back to being relevant, and they're back to being a top 10 program that recruits want to go to, that transfer portal players want to go to. So you can't grade this team or program lower than a B+. I might even say A- at this point.
That's where I'm at too, right on that fringe. And you duly noted, hey, if they go beat A&M, that's a big deal. Winning playoff games changes the perception of a program, and it should.
Yeah.
So it would prove that there's, hey, we've gotten the players here, we've developed them, game planning, all that stuff. A&M's a good program. Elko's a good coach. Winning in that stadium, like that place is bananas.
It
all
is.
That, they got some rowdy fans now.
Yeah, I've been there, man, and the last time Miami was there, and definitely the best experience that I've experienced at a college football game. Those fans they're almost scary, the fans. It's like you don't want to like rub their shoulders too hard, because they may come at you, because they're almost cultish, I would say.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, like that fan base is strong. It's in the middle of nowhere in Texas, it feels like.
It is.
And that stadium is going to be absolutely rocking, because last time I was there, the press box was absolutely shaking, Brian. And like I could just feel the energy from the press box. So I couldn't even imagine like being on the field or being in the stands at Kyle Field. So I'm really excited to see what that environment is like. I'm a little mad that it's an afternoon game. I kind of wish it was like middle of the day or primetime game, but
they don't want to compete with the NFL. That's exactly what that is. They put the other two games up against the NFL because they know they're not going to do good against NFL games. NFL's got Saturday games. That's the problem.
I got you. I feel you. I hear you on that.
So and it's the best matchup of the weekend. A&M versus Miami. I think it'll be the best game. Although, I mean, you could argue Oklahoma and Alabama, but those teams got so many problems. I'll take the A&M versus Miami games.
They do. Definitely the most intriguing matchup for sure.
Marcus, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Absolutely. Rivals.com. And it's part of the On3 Rivals Network, I guess you could say. You could follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Rivals, also on Instagram as well at Benjamin Report. Just reporting on the state of Florida, but mostly concentrating on South Florida recruits in the Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. We will talk to you again soon.